Hello, everybody. So what I wanted to do is kind of re-record this because I didn't really like the way that the other one came across as I was doing it live. So I wanted to be a little bit more entertaining and captivating on a recorded webinar since it's not a live one. And during the live one, you just have to put up with me. So anyhow, what I'm going to do is kind of go through this thing. I want to do it a little bit faster just to make sure I captivate your attention enough so you get the information that I'm trying to get across. All right, so the first thing that we're going to cover is the body mass index. Now, with the body mass index, there are a numerous multitude of charts and ways of calculating this, and then they put you within certain ranges. This is how a lot of life insurance is calculated. This is what doctors say that you should be. When you go to your OB, they may say, all right, if you're trying to get pregnant, we want you within this range and that range. Essentially, what I want to do is debunk this thing because it's not accurate. It doesn't really reflect what the human body should be. And when it refers to normal, overweight, obese, morbidly obese, it's incorrect and it needs to be changed. And I'm not sure if they're going to do anything about it as of yet. For example, Michael Phelps, who is a phenomenal athlete. Last night, he just won his 22nd gold medal. Yeah, 22nd gold. Phenomenal athlete, 6'4", 194 pounds. According to the body mass index, he would be overweight. Look at this guy. Is that overweight? Not at all. You see every bit of muscle on him. He's in phenomenal shape. Not overweight. The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, 6'5", weighing in at 262 pounds. According to the BMI, he'd be obese. What is that? In fact, according to this chart, it's obese. According to other charts, he'd be morbidly obese. Now, when we think of the term obese, we think fat, right? But it's just a number on paper. If he actually needed life insurance, which he probably doesn't because he's acted and he's a great actor and makes a lot of money. But if he actually needed life insurance, he would have to pay a premium, a significant premium, just because it's a number, regardless of his actual health. So when you think about the scale, don't think, oh, it's about poundage. Muscle weighs far more than fat does, and it's far more aesthetically pleasing as well. So as you progress and you gain muscle and you put on that adequate weight and you lose fat, the scale may not change significantly. However, it's all about body composition. The Rock at 8% body fat. Remember, we just said he weighs 262 pounds. That would be 21 pounds of fat on his body. We do need fat. You do need fat in your body. His absolute lean body, if he was ridiculously sick and did not have, actually it'd be probably physically impossible. There's a couple people on earth that have a disease where their body doesn't hold on to fat. But anyways, if he had zero fat, he'd be 241 pounds. That'd be a complete lean body. And according to the BMI, he'd still be obese if he had zero fat. Michael Phelps, 6.5% body fat. He only has 15 pounds of fat on that 6'4" frame. That would mean his lean body is 178 pounds. 178 pounds, that's it. At 6'4", it would put him to normal, a normal weight. Note, it would not make him underweight. He would still be, quote unquote, normal if he had zero fat. So BMI, incorrect. It is not an accurate term of measurement. Now, with this, we're going to flow right into talking about calories and the where we got the 2,000 calorie a day diet from and nutrition labels and stuff like that. So all calories are not created equal, and not everyone needs the same amount of calories, which is a very basic fundamental understanding. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this. 12,000 calories a day. 12,000 calories a day is what Michael Phelps eats when he's actively training. And if you look at the sample meal plan of what he eats, it's a majority of carbohydrates. So when we understand nutrition, carbohydrates are needed for energy. And when you're exerting that amount of energy, you need a lot of carbohydrates. Okay, he does have protein because he has significant muscle mass, but majority of his calories come from carbohydrates so he can burn and use it as energy. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he's more of the bodybuilder type, right? So he's got quite a bit of mass, very strong, very big, and still lean. Most of his calories come from protein. So if you look at the sample meal that he has there, it's a lot of fish, eggs. He's still getting quite a bit of carbs because he needs the energy for his workouts and to complete his day, and he's getting the right carbs in. 10 pounds of food, 6,000 calories. He weighs 40-something more pounds, well, actually more than that, 70 more pounds than Michael Phelps, and only an inch shorter, but he's consuming 6,000 less calories. So everybody's not created equal. So he weighs more, he's stronger, but because of his activity level and what he does and his fitness goals, he consumes different kinds of calories for his goals. 10 pounds of food a day at about 6,000 calories, which flows right into, where does the 2,000 calorie a day diet come from? It's actually quite funny. There's no scientific base on the 2,000 calorie a day diet. It was based on a census. Women consuming between 1,600 and 2,200 calories a day. Men between 2,000 and 3,000, and children between 1,800 and 2,500 calories a day. That average was 2,350. The powers that be thought that number was a little bit too high and not an even number, so they're like, 2,000. 2,000 is a good even number, and it's what we're going to put on our nutrition labels. So this is not something to go by. This is not a tool, and we're going to show you what to use on the nutrition label. Do not go by the 2,000 calorie a day diet. For some people, 2,000 calories a day, you may lose weight. For some people, 2,000 calories a day, you may gain weight. For others, 2,000 calories a day, you may sustain. So 2,000 calories a day is not a hard line in the sand. We do not all look the same. We do not all have the same activity level. We're not the same age, sex, hormones, activity level, body type, personal chemistry, all of that good stuff. We're not the same people with the same activity levels. Therefore, we should not be eating the same. There are some things that we can get from the nutrition labels, though. So there's two types of nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are defined as carbohydrates, protein, and fat, three basic categories. 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So when we think about what's calorie dense, fat obviously is very, very calorie dense, but you also got to think about grams. So think about a gram of protein versus a gram of carbohydrates. You can eat a whole lot more pasta than you can meat. So all that's the same amount, roughly the same amount of calories. So this is not an exact. It depends on the kind of carb and the kind of protein, but anyhow, and there are fats and proteins and so on and so forth. Anyhow, so the we can eat significantly more carbohydrates than we can protein. So that's why we're getting more calories from carbs than protein. Okay, moving forward here. There are very simple ways that we can manipulate, and when I say we, whatever the food companies are, the way that they can manipulate a food label. The first one being a serving size. So it's a serving size per container. So I just grabbed this Cheetos bag here to use that as an example. So it's serving size. And according to the FDA and the powers that be, if it's less than half a gram per serving, it doesn't need to be listed. So if something says it's fat-free and it has 10 servings, in theory, it could have almost 5 grams of fat and still say it's fat-free in that total container or package, because it can have less than half a gram per serving. And legally, they're allowed to round down. So if their tests say that it is 0.49 grams per serving, then they say it's 0. So do not buy into the fact that it is 100% accurate. The only thing that's going to be accurate on nutrition labels in reality is something that doesn't have a nutrition label. And that's kind of funny. But when you think of an apple, banana, orange, we know what the nutrient quality is in those things. It can't really be manipulated. But on nutrition labels, it can be manipulated legally. All right, so moving forward here, Now, I want to break a nutrition label down. I'm not even sure what this is for, but it's a good example for me to use. So if we look at total calories here, it says 230. Serving sizes is 8 serving size per container. So this is going to apply to anything with a nutrition label. So what I want you to do is throw out the idea of serving size. Throw it away. Don't even think about it. Now, what you can look as a guideline is your grams. So according to this label, if you look at fat, so under fat, you're going to have your saturated fat and trans fat. Under carbohydrates, you're going to have fiber, sugar. Okay, so that would be considered under carbs. And you also have sodium. We're going to talk about sodium here in a minute, and protein. So fat, if we take that 8 grams of fat and multiply it by the 8 serving sizes per container, in reality, this container has 64 grams of fat. Carbohydrates, 37 times 8, 296 grams of carbs. Protein, 3 times 8, 24 grams of carbs. Okay, so we take 64 times 9, which the 64 number is the 64 grams of fat times the 9 calories per gram. That's 576 calories from fat in this container. 296 grams of carbs total in this container times 4 calories per gram. That's 1,184 calories from carbs. Protein, 24 grams of protein times 4 calories in a gram of protein. That's 216 calories from protein. We take the calories that they say per serving, 230 times 8, that equals 1,840 calories. And that's according to this nutrition label. So if you do that with every nutrition label, and you really think about how much you're eating or how much you're cooking with it, if it's canned beans or whatever, you're really consuming significantly more than expected. Okay, so now there is a difference between sodium and salt. Sodium is an electrolyte. It's a mineral in the body, and it is important in the body in regards to water retention. Remember this quote, sodium goes where water flows. Sodium goes where water flows. So if you lose sodium, you're losing water. If you hold on to sodium, you're going to retain water. Okay, so if you are retaining water, that's when you have swelling issues and all these other things, which we'll get to here down here at the bottom. So sodium is defined as things like sea salt, kosher salt, Celtic, Himalayan. So those are natural minerals, and they have micronutrients, which we're going to get into in a second. We have micronutrients in those sodium sources. Now, what we know, what's defined as sodium on a nutrition label, is processed sodium. Processed sodium is salt. So what salt would be your iodized salt, your table salt, MSG, sodium chloride. And these are the things used as food preservatives in processed foods. Okay? Processed sodium salt can cause kidney damage, artery damage, heart damage, reduced blood flow, which would subsequently cause circulation issues. And that reduced blood flow could potentially cause brain damage and even clots that can cause a stroke. Autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, celiac disease, MS, so forth. Okay, so a lot of these diseases are somewhat new in the broad scheme of mankind. And the reason is that we have been introduced to processed sodium in the past 100 years. And after we have been introduced to processed sodium, it's actually an addictive substance. It's harder to quit eating sodium, processed sodium, than it is to quit eating sugar. And we consume far more sodium than you would believe because it's in processed foods. So although you may not add salt to anything that you eat, you're consuming quite a bit of salt in your daily diet. How much salt should we consume per day? USDA says 2,300 mgs. American Heart Association, 1,500. Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, 1,500 to 2,300. American Diabetes Association, 1,500 to 2,300. Okay, the average American consumes between 3,400 and 4,200 mgs per day. Over 75% of that comes from processed foods. That means there's 25% or less that's table salt, 25% or less that you're actually putting in. So when we think about where our food is coming from and where these health issues are coming from, it is from processed foods. Okay, so there's these little guys on the bottom and on the nutrition label. And these are the micronutrients. So we had macronutrients, which are your fats, carbs, and proteins. Your micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals. So that's going to be listed on the bottom. The greatest way to get your vitamins and minerals is natural fruits, veggies, and actually taking supplements, opposed to just expecting to get everything that you need out of food, especially processed food, because it has a diminished capacity of nutrient quality. Okay, so here you can pretty much read what minerals and vitamins would be considered in your micronutrients. So I tried to run through this one as I re-recorded it. I wanted to be a little more boisterous and entertaining. As always, please feel free to email me, text me with any questions, and please make sure you share this with everyone else in the group and make sure that they're watching it. I'm going to email it out. But knowledge, I don't believe knowledge is power. I believe knowledge is leverage. However, the more knowledge that we can consume, and it is more tools that we have in our belt to use for the future, and understanding food, understanding nutrition, and moving forward, trying to live a healthier life, a life worth living. Take care, guys. Give me a shout if you need anything. Have a fantastic day.